ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं दीपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। व्याप्तिरस्य निजे निजेन मनसा पक्षे सपक्षे स्थिति व्यावृत्तिश्च विपक्षतोत्त विषये शक्तिर्न वै बाधते। नैवास्ति प्रतिपक्षयुक्तिरतुलं शुद्धं प्रमाणं समे भूयात् तत्त्वनिर्णय भगवान् आनन्दतीर्थो मुनिः। श्रीमद् आनन्दतीर्थार्य सन्मनः सरसि भुवि अनुव्याख्यान नलिने सिञ्चरी गतिमयि मनः। सनातनं रूपम् इहोपदर्शयन् आनन्दसिन्धुं परितप्रवर्धयन् अन्तस्तमस्तोम हरस्सराजतां चैतन्यरूपो विदुरद्भुतोदयः। Hare Krishna. Welcome you all for our continued discussion on Vedānta Syamantaka. So we have discussed about how different uh, discussions on impersonalism have failed, and they have not conclusively come to a proper conclusion. The different definitions of Aropavada or Pratibhimbavada. So all these things have been tried, Anuvadavada. So all these things, they have not helped us to arrive at a proper conclusion. So we will continue from there. What we discussed was that there was perception in a mirage, and even in there is a person. There is in a mirage, it appears that something is there, but then we don't start making plans with that water, or we don't start fetching with the water, so that doesn't work. So some may say that on account of avidya, the universe is imagined to exist, just like a snake is imagined to exist on the rope. Now the question for that is that imagination real or no? Is that avidya sat or asat? That is the question. So that also now that is perplexing, because if that avidya is asat, uh, just a minute, somebody is at the door. Okay, sorry. So somebody was at the door. So the question is ignorance real or not? So if the ignorance is real, then it would not be dispelled. Avidya, they say. But avidya, does it exist or no? So if avidya is existing, then it should not be dispelled. If avidya doesn't exist, then there is no question of discussing about it. So who is in ignorance? Is it the Parabrahma, the absolute truth that is in ignorance? Brahma is in ignorance, but absolute truth cannot be in ignorance because it is full of knowledge. Then, if ignorance is another real thing separate from absolute truth, then into existence. So, in all these things, we cannot actually ascertain what is avidya unless we one. So, these are Datamodar Goswami is going to conclude this section. Therefore, being made by the Supreme Lord, endowed with his energy called Para superior as an instrumental cause nimitta, and by him endowed with material pradhana and material energies as the material cause upadana, the universe is certainly real. As stated in the Shruti, so kamayata bahusyam prajayeya satapotap tapyata satapastap taptva idam sarvam asrujat yada idam kim cha. Taittiriya Upanishad 2.6. The Supreme Soul desired, let me be many, and then he reflected, and having reflected, he created the whole universe and whatever exists. Kavir Manishi Parimbu Swayambur Yatha Tatyatorthan Vedadhat Chashvatibhyas Samabhyah Ishopanishad. The omniscient, wise, all pervading, and independent Supreme Lord truly created the material elements since time immemorial. Tadatmanam Swayam Akruta, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7. The Supreme Soul created the universe on his own. The Smriti also confirms in Vishnu Purana, Tad Edat Aksharam Nityam Jagad Muni वराखिलम आविर्भाव तिरोभाव जन्म नाश विकल्प vikalpavat. Oh, best of the sages, this whole universe is eternal and imperishable, and it has alternate appearances and disappearances, births and deaths. Brahma Satyam Tapas Satyam Satyam Chaiva Prajapati Satyam Chatani Bhutani Satyam Bhuta Mayam Jagat. The Supreme Lord is real. Reflection on him is real. Prajapati is real. The universe composed of material elements is real. And the living creatures are born from what is real. In the Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1, it is said, Ekam eva dvitiyam. The Supreme Lord is one without the second. Hence, also by analogies such as the bird that disappears within the forest, it is proved that the universe is actually existing even at the time of dissolution. Now, ultimately, the conclusion is that Supreme Lord is real. That is known before. The material world is also real. The living entities are also real. So it's a combination of all reals, and none of these is actually false. That is the point that he is concluding here. And how it exists as a real reflection. So when we go in front of a mirror, the reflection is not a real reflection. It is an imagination of the actual thing. Whereas in the uh, just a minute. Whereas in the uh, actual scenario, when the Supreme Lord reflects into the material world, everything is coming from his reflection. So, whereas that reflection is real reflection. So, this is called Bimba Pratibimba Vada. This Bimba Pratibimba Vada is being elaborately described by Madhvacharya in this Vishnu Tattva Vinirnaya, where he says that every soul in the hierarchy, supreme starting from Narayana to other souls in the hierarchy, each one is a reflection of the previous one. So they are not false reflections, but they are actual real reflections of the other. Reflection means there is dependency. So there is dependency of one to other. So the Supreme Lord, on him, the his immediate dependents are Mahalakshmi and other devatas, and on the devatas, the other living entities, the human beings are dependent. So there is an eternal relationship of dependency, and that is the reflection. So that is the concept that is explained here by Radha Damodar Goswami also. Uh, Second thing is that in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Urdhva Moolam Adhashaka Ashwatam Prahuravyam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavid. So the whole material world is compared to a inverse reverted banyan tree. So a banyan tree exists. So the reverse banyan tree is what is the material world, where the roots are on top and the branches are down, and there is set of extended branches. Karmani bandhuni manushya loke. What happens is, when a banyan tree grows, after some time there will be secondary roots that will be coming, and a person, we have experience of children playing on those. They will play as what do you say? They will play swing on that, right? How many of you have experienced that? So gradually what happens is, those secondary, they will also go into the soil and they will also become roots, and in this way the tree goes on expanding, it goes on extending for a long time. Now they are all called secondary roots, these things, and those secondary roots expand the tree. Now, once the tree is sufficiently expanded, it becomes difficult to uproot the tree. Why? Because the roots are already in the soil. If you start cutting at one place, at the other place, roots are there and they will be nourishing the tree. Even if you cut everything, still we don't know, some root may be alive which will again start growing when the rain falls. So, like that. So, similarly, our conditioning in this material world in different planetary systems is like that. We have unlimited desires, and each of these desires have been rooted into the material world. And once we start cutting our desires one by one, we don't know at one point of time which desire comes up. So this is a very big tree of our material existence, and it is reverse. Why it is reverse? Just like in the reflection, we see the reverse, right? So similarly, our existence in the material world is also a reflection. And it's also mentioned that the uh, what is considered the lowest in this world is considered highest in the spiritual world. So the Atyanta Durlabha Prema, the topmost love of gopis with the Supreme Lord. And whereas when the same is when the living entities does the activity, the same activities is considered the lowest. So it is completely reverse of what it is in the spiritual world. So this is how we should understand the whole system. It is not false, it is real, but it is a reflection. Reflection means it is a real reflection, not a false reflection. So these are the points that have been clarified here. And second thing about this universe is that, about this creation, is that it is real but temporary. Temporary means it will get destroyed one day. So it's created, destroyed. Bhutagramas evaya bhutva bhutva praliyate. Ratragame vasha partha prapadyante haragame. So this nature of this material world is, it is created, again it is destroyed. Similarly, we take bodies, the bodies are destroyed. Everything in this world is created and destroyed. So it is not false, but it is temporary. And one should not bank on things that are temporary. That is the idea. The impersonalist theory is that this is illusion, whereas Brahma is real. So bank on the real, forget the illusion. Whereas the personalist theory is that the material world is also real. It is as much real as Brahma. Only thing is that this reality is temporary reality, and that is why it is a source of misery. We will discuss this further. This source of misery because it is temporary reality. Only when we come to the actual permanent reality, that is when that is not going to get destroyed. परस्तस्मात् भावोन्यो व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सन्मातना यस सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति. When all these things is destroyed, that reality never gets destroyed. That is the difference here. Second thing is, there are statements that we have seen in the Shastras. Ekam Advitiyam means the Supreme Lord is one without the second. So this is just to prove the greatness of the Supreme Lord. It's not that there is no second truth. That is not the interpretation of this. It means to say that the Supreme Lord is the topmost and everyone else is lower than him and dependent on him. That is the understanding we can derive from this. And third thing, Taittiriya Upanishad, let me be many. So, uh, so that is something of the act of creation. Before the creation, all the jivas exist in the stomach of Mahavishnu, exist in the body of Mahavishnu. And when the universe is created, that is when he expands as Nimitta. He is the nimitta, and upadana comes from him and creates this universe. So that is at the time of creation that he becomes many, means he expands into so many, and that way he creates these unlimited universes, and in each of these universes the jivas are injected. All those things will be discussed in more detail in next section, but in essence we should understand that it's all eternally different, and not that at some point of time it will be known as one. So that is the thing. Now I will read the last paragraph of this and then we can discuss a little bit. As for the theory that the individual soul is Brahman itself when perplexed, that is absolutely inapplicable, for it contradicts Shruti statements like Sokamyata Bahusyama Prajayita. Moreover, whose perplexity is this? And where is it situated? If one says that it belongs to the individual soul and is situated in pure consciousness Brahman, this is not true. For pure consciousness cannot be an object of perception. In superimposition, the rule is that the substratum is perceived, yet pure consciousness does not see the universe within itself out of perplexity, since its nature as pure consciousness is eternally established. Furthermore, confusion experienced is based on similarity, such as when one thinks a post is a man. Thus, it is established that the pure consciousness of the individual soul is real and different from the universe, which is the place where perplexity is situated. An oyster shell available in the market is certainly real and different from silver. Thus, this theory about Brahman's perplexity is inapplicable. Now, therefore, it is proved that the individual soul is different from God, is eternally conscious like Him, and is His servant. Thus ends the third ray of the Vedānta Syamantaka entitled Defining the Nature of the Individual Soul. Now, there is Satya and there is Samshaya. Sometimes we get doubts. When we see something, we are doubtful whether is it actually this or not. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, there is Pramana and there is Apramana, and there is one more thing called Samshaya. So, what is Samshaya? Mm, so, sometimes what happens is we are doubtful whether something is actually that or no. For example, when you see at a long distance, something is tall, but you don't see the head or hands of a human being because it's far, you are not able to see. So you are not able to decide whether is it a human being or no. At the same time, sometimes these coconut trees are dried. So you don't have the branches of the tree, you don't have the fruits hanging, all these things. You just see the thing. So you feel it may be a coconut tree also. On one hand, it doesn't have the head and hands to ascertain that it is a person. At the same time, it doesn't have the fruits and the branches to ascertain that it's a coconut tree. So that is when you get confused. And what is common? What makes you doubt that it's either two? Because man is also tall, tree is also tall. So there is a common thing between both. So that common thing makes you feel that, oh, maybe either it's a human or a coconut tree. Correct. So similarly, sthanu va purusho va, there is a confusion whether it's a tree or whether it's a man. So like that, are we confused that this world, is it Brahma or is it Satya? Are we confused like that? So that is also one of the arguments that is put. So uh, the question that comes here is, who is confused? Is it Brahma that is confused? Because Parabrahma is absolute truth. Absolute truth is full of knowledge. So there should not be any confusion in Brahma. So pure consciousness does not see the universe within itself out of perplexity. Is it that Brahma itself is seeing the universe because it has caused confusion of its own self, and because it has caused confusion of its own self, he is seeing the universe? So that doesn't seem to be likely. And second thing is, there should be some sadharana dharma. Just like you are getting confused between a man and a post, or man and a tree, because there is one common thing between man and tree, both are tall. Similarly, what is the common thing here between Brahma and universe, between Brahma and Asat? What is the common thing that makes you confused? So is there any sadharana dharma that is making you confused about these two things? That also doesn't seem to be there, because there is nothing that is common between the two, Brahma and what is that? Mithya. So that also doesn't establish properly that there exists something called Mithya or perplexity or confusion or samshaya. So none of these things seems to be established. So, therefore, considering all these things, it is clearly established that the individual soul is real, and universe is real, and Brahma is real, absolute truth is real. Each of these are real, and they are separately situated. An oyster shell available in the market is certainly real, and it's different from silver. So, the shell that is there in the seashore or in the market is real. Silver is also real, just that we are thinking the shell to be silver. So we are superimposing the shell on the silver. Similarly, if the universe is unreal and it is illusory, then on what is it imposed? That question, they are not, it cannot be imposed on Brahma. Brahma is absolute truth. How can something be imposed on Brahma? So definitely it is a distinct real entity. Supreme Lord is distinct real, the material world is distinct real, and each of these are separately existing as reals. Just that there is one real who is controller, other reals who are controlled. There is one real who is maintaining, other reals are maintained. So everything is dependent on that one real. That is the understanding we have to derive from this. So this will end the uh, ray of Jiva. Any questions in this regard you can ask. Any doubts in this section, or it's all clear? No. Okay. So I have updated the questions also. Just a minute. I have put questions for each session wise as much as possible. Mm, so till 17, till session 17, I have done. Today's will be the last one for this. So not much is there. I have put 4 seminar topics. What are these? So, at the end, what we will do is once the whole discussion will get over, I think it may last for another 2 weeks now, not much, maybe some 3 or 4 sessions only. It may be, I'm hoping. So that will finish Vedanta Samantaka. Maybe 1 or 2 topics more will be added to this. So each of you can pick up one of these topics and then you can explain it. We will have a session where after this written exam, I will give you a written exam, and then we will have this session also where you would explain one of these topics to all of us. So that way, generally in traditional Vedantic circles, this is the way they study the subject. That once the book is over, there will be those who have learnt who will be speaking on it, and then questions will be asked on that. So that way it will help us get thorough with the subject. So these are the things that are there. You all can go through this question bank and let me know if something is not understood. We can discuss that further.
Hare Krishna, Praveen.
Yes.
What would be the time limit for explaining the topics, and how much time you have to explain?
I thought we will keep 15 minutes per person.
Okay.
15 minutes minimum. If they are willing to explain little more, if they are more thorough with the topic, it's even better. And it's not just these. You can pick up anything else from Vedanta Samantaka also and say that I will explain this. That is also okay. I hope it will be exciting. No? Everyone is okay with that. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, at what time we will have to present? Like, we will get one more week to prepare, or
yeah, there
what?
will be sufficient time to prepare, Prabhuji. First, once I am hoping that there may be another 3, 4 sessions more. So after that, we can decide how much time you will take, 1 week or 2 weeks time to study the whole subject. Then we will have this, and at the same time, we will have the written exam also. So together.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, and Roshan Prabhu also told about one final. Suppose if we study again, we will come up with more new doubts. So one
Mm.
specific session
We will have
for.
we will have more sessions on that. If you all are ready with questions, then we will discuss further.
Okay.
Generally, this subject is like that uh, even some of our doubts also will get clarified. Means when we discuss, some of my doubts also will get clarified. So it will be learning all the time. So it is very interesting that way. Okay, so shall we begin with the next section, Prakrti?
Yes, sir.
Now, the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita generally deal with Jiva Tattva, Jiva, and the next 6 chapters generally deal with Ishvara, the nature of Ishvara, and all those things. The last 6 chapters are Prakriti. So, one may question why this comes at the end. Means ultimately our goal is to know the Supreme Lord. So, if we know everything else and at the end we know the Supreme Lord, that will make more sense, right? The 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita can be the 18th chapter, and the 3 modes can be some 7th or 8th chapter or first 6 chapters. So, why is it ordered that way? Anybody would like to uh, comment on that? Yes, Sudhanshu Prabhu.
तब पापा थोड़े कॉन्शियस हो गए और एक दिन में ही वो
Yes.
पूरी तरह से मतलब पहचानने लगे
Background
थोड़ा
noise,
सकते
है।
वैसे
You can change the room.
वेंटिलेटर पे थे बट थोड़ा समझ रहे थे सब
Can you
हमारे
change
बारे
the
में
room?
सुन रहे थे
Lot
रिस्पॉन्स
of
प्रॉपर
background
कर रहे
noise.
Actually, I have in journey too.
पापा
Oh,
कहाँ से
okay,
बाहर
okay.
आ गए इतना ऐसे भाटे रखते
So
Not able to
I
hear
took
you.
ने बोला कि आप खुश मत
Okay,
हो
okay, okay.
ये पॉज मतलब
Nice.
You can
मतलब
message. You can
पापा से
message.
तो बाहर आ गए मे बी
Anybody else would like to try till then? You understood the question? Everybody understood the question?
Prabhuji, can you repeat the question again?
See, I explained to you that first six chapters of Bhagavad Gita are dedicated to Jiva Jnana, knowledge of Jiva. The 7th to 12th are dedicated to the knowledge of Ishvara. And 13th to 18th is more dedicated towards Prakriti. So, how Prakriti is acting. Now, Prakriti is material, whereas Jiva is superior. Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho Ye Idam Dharyate Jagat. It controls Prakriti. And Ishvara controls Jiva also. It controls Prakriti also. So, Ishvara is more superior. So, why is it ultimately our goal is to understand Krishna, Supreme Lord. Why this knowledge of Prakriti comes at the end of Bhagavad Gita? When Bhakti Yoga could have come at the end, knowledge of Krishna could have come at the end. Yes, Roshan Prabhu.
I cannot actually answer why the sequence is like that, but as you have said that it is one more question that why we only Ishvara could have been explained in the whole Bhagavad Gita. I have heard that Madhvacharya places means Ishvara is also real, material world is also real, and Jiva also real. So all of them has to be explained thoroughly. It is means I have heard somewhere it is Madhvacharya's opinion that everything exists. So material world has to be also explained, and Jiva has also has to be explained. And Ishvara also has to be explained.
Yes, Prabhuji, good points. Anybody else is willing to try? It makes sense, right? We want to know Sri Bhagavan Vacha. We want to know who is Sri Bhagavan. So ultimately, it should end with the knowledge of Sri Bhagavan.
Prabhu, Krishna.
Yes, Mohan Radharti Prabhu.
Prabhu, one thing I've heard that the prakriti is like paraphernalia of worship. So once we know ourselves and Lord, then we have to utilize wherever we are to for Lord's worship. So one point is that, and another is also like we know our goal that we have to attain the Lord, and then but our current position is that we are struck in the three modes of material nature. So we need to understand where we are now, and accordingly we have to upgrade our modes so that ultimately we can transcend it. So from ignorance to passion to goodness, and then to transcending those modes. So that pathway is there. So
Yeah, same thing Sudhanshu Prabhu is also saying. I will read it. Because presently Jiva is under the grip of material Prakriti. So to understand its nature is most important. And at last Krishna says surrender after telling all truths. Yeah, so
Prabhuji,
yes.
I have one perspective. Like, Prabhuji, Jiva is the first thing that we should know what we are. And then, like, while studying Jiva, we will try to, we got understanding that, we are powerful than Prakriti. But then the question would arise, if we are powerful than Prakriti, then how Prakriti is controlling us? And
Yes.
then we get to understand that there is actually Ishvara Tattva, which is actually empowering Prakriti. And that's why, and finally we need to surrender to Krishna so that we can get over this Prakriti.
Yes, correct. Now we need to, why you mentioned it very nicely. First thing is we should understand who we are. Okay, even after understanding who we are still, we understand that we are under the control of Ishvara, who is the Supreme Lord. That also we understand. And after we understand ourselves, after we understand Krishna, are we pure devotees? Are we going back to God? And now we know Krishna is God. We know we are living entities. We are Atma. We are not destroyable. So are we ready to go back to God? No, we are still dealing with Prakriti. We are still dealing with our three modes. We are still dealing with our divine and demoniac natures. We still have three different types of faiths. We have half faith here, half faith there. We are still dealing in this world only. So after understanding the soul also, still the whole big program is necessary to purify ourselves and get ready for Manmana Bhav Mad Bhakto. That preparation for always thinking of Krishna is required, and that is why knowing of Prakriti, how it acts, what its nature is, and what you will do now with that. This knowledge is very important. So, having set that background, we will start studying about the fourth ray of Vedānta Syamantaka, Prakriti. The nature of Prakriti, material nature, shall now be ascertained. Material nature is an eternal material element and the resting place of the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. As it is said in the Shruti, Gaur Anadya Antavati Sa Janitri Bhuta Bhavini Sita 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 Cha Rakta Cha Sarva Kama Dugo Vibhu. Matrika Upanishad 5. The Supreme Lord's external energy is the beginningless and endless genetrix, the source of the manifestation of all created beings. It is white, red, and black, and is compared to a cow from which all desirable things can be milked. It is also heard from the Shruti. Trigunam tat jagat yonir anadi prabhavi payam. Vishnu Purana 1.2. It is also heard in Smriti. Vishnu Purana 1.2.21. Material nature is beginningless. It is neither created nor destroyed. It consists of three material modes and is the source of this universe. Achetana parartha cha nitya satata vikriya Trigunam karminam kshetram prakrite rupamuchyate. Parama Samhita 2.18. The characteristics of material nature are said to be as follows. It is insentient, meant for others, constantly changing, and it consists of three modes. It is the field of work for those engaged in material activities. Okay. So, in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 purport, Prabhupada mentions this. In the material energy, the principal manifestations are 8, as above mentioned. Out of these, the first 5 manifestations, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, are called the 5 gigantic creations or the gross creations, while the 5 sense objects, within which the 5 sense objects are included. They are the manifestations of physical sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Material science comprises these 10 items and nothing more. But the other 3 items, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego, are neglected by the materialists. Philosophers who deal with mental activities are not perfect in knowledge because they do not know the ultimate source, Krishna. The false ego, I am and it is mine, which constitutes the basic principle of material existence, includes 10 sense organs for the material activities. Intelligence refers to the total material creation called Mahat Tattva. Therefore, from the 8 separated energies of the Lord are manifest the 24 elements of the material world, which are the subject matter of Sankhya atheistic philosophy. They are originally offshoots from Krishna's energies and are separated from him. But atheistic Sankhya philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge do not know Krishna as the cause of all causes. The subject matter for discussion in the Sankhya philosophy is only the manifestation of the external energy of Krishna as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4 purport. Similarly, the 9.10 purport, the material nature is not independent. She is acting under the direction of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, nature of Prakriti is insentient. There is no, just like Jiva and Ishvara are sentient, means they have reactions, whereas Prakriti doesn't have. Prakriti needs the activation of the Lord. Only when Lord activates, the Prakriti becomes active. And Prakriti is generally having 3 modes. Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Just like you have colors. By mixing 3 colors, red, blue, green, we get all the shades that exist everywhere. For example, I made this brown color here. So this brown color that I made here or the light blue color that I made here, they are all mixing of these 3 different colors. So similarly, everything in this material world is a mixture of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Sometimes goodness is more prominent, sometimes passion is more prominent, sometimes ignorance is more prominent. And this you can apply to practically everything in the world. All the books that you study are under three modes. All the objects that you use are under three modes. The food that we eat is under three modes. The clothes that we wear can be defined under three modes. And the language that we use, the words that we speak, it is also defined under three modes. Everything in this material world, the friends whom we have, the objects that we use, the houses that we live in, everything in this world come under the bracket of three modes. And sometimes some modes are more prominent, sometimes some modes are less prominent. For example, during the time of the day, during the night when we go to sleep, this ignorance is more prominent. When we are awake in the morning, goodness is more prominent. Whereas when we go to work during the day, when we perform our activities, that is when passion is more prominent. So even during the day, at different times of the day, some modes are more prominent. In fact, Acharyas go to say that the Kalpas or Brahma's days are also like that. Some Brahma's days are more into goodness, some Brahma's days are more into passion, some are more into ignorance. We discussed that earlier. Anybody remembers when we discussed that? Which modes are prominent when, in which Kalpa of Brahma? We discussed that. Anybody knows when? When there were different Shastras, why different Shastras mention about different demigods being the supreme?
Ishwar Pramaya, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes. Different demigods being the supreme, different Shastras mention. So in that context, what we discussed is that some kalpas, some shastras become more prominent because the population is mostly Rajasic. And so the pastimes of Shiva being demonstrated as supreme, like we saw that once Brahma and Vishnu were both checking the linga. They saw linga and they were seeing, oh, this linga, we will find out the root of it. So Brahma goes up, Vishnu goes down, and they keep going, going, going. Brahma never reaches the top, Vishnu never reaches the bottom. Finally, they come back and they get confused. They are not sure whether this has a bottom, whether this has a top. Finally, they get some word which indicates that you have to do tapasya to understand this linga. And then with tapasya, it was understood. So, how to understand all these pastimes? So, it was explained that there are kalpas in tamas, there are kalpas in rajas, there are kalpas in sattva. And based on what kalpa which is, those shastras are more prominent. So like that, three modes are practically operating in all aspects of our life. And these colors are given in sometimes in Shastras, that white, red and black. White is a symbolism of goodness, red is a symbolism of passion, and black is a symbolism of ignorance. So, and it is compared to a cow from which all desirable things can be milked. Means everything we want in life, all the desires to be fulfilled, we can achieve it through these three modes. So these three modes are like it's like a cow, and the three modes are the milk of the cow. So whatever we want, we can milk it, means whatever desires we can fulfill. The difference between the Vedic way of explaining Prakriti and the scientific way of explaining Prakriti is that two things. One is that they only see the gross elements. The periodic table has, when we studied, it was some 115 elements. Now, recently I was just going through something. They have defined at least some 150 or 160 elements in the periodic table. They have created more and more compounds. So every year more and more elements are getting added. Whereas in Vedic system, no, there are 5 gross and 3 subtle elements. Actually 24 elements, we will see that. So main are these 5: earth, water, fire, air and ether. Everything else is combination. Everything gross is a combination of these 5. And everything subtle is combination of mind, intelligence and ego. So no more new elements. That is fixed. That is the Vedic system. So that's the speciality of the Vedic understanding. So these scientists, all the different elements of the periodic table, whatever they defined, hydrogen, helium, oxygen, chlorine, and fluorine, and so many things, carbon, nitrogen, so many things they define. But still, they have not touched the subtle elements. Subtle elements like mind, intelligence, and ego. These things are understood. We know that they exist. Nobody can deny their existence. They exist, but then they are subtle things. Just like we make television with gross things. We bring some plastic and we bring some silicon and bring some metal and some copper, join all of them, and television is created. So in Vedic system, they had the talent of creating televisions with subtle elements. So with gross elements, we can combine and create television. Why can't there be a technology to create television with subtle elements? That's exactly what Vedavyasa did. And he installed this television in the heart of Sanjaya so that he could be able to see the battlefield of Kurukshetra from a long distance, staying wherever he was. So that is the beauty of the technology of those days. So it was subtle elements, even the weapons that were used in war. So the weapons of war, they were also from subtle elements. So from subtle, they would create gross elements. It was such that the weapon will go in the womb of the mother and harm the child, but nothing will happen to the mother. So these were the subtle sciences which the present day scientists are not able to touch. That is why the knowledge of prakrti in present day society is very limited. Sankhya philosophers have tried to identify certain things. Even among Sankhya, there are two. One is the theistic Kapila and one is the atheistic Kapila. So there is also Bhagwan Kapila. It is mentioned that there are multiple Kapilas. There is a theistic Kapila who is not Bhagwan, also it's mentioned. He also has a theistic Sankhya philosophy. He agrees that Krishna is, he agrees that Narayana exists. But what is defined in Bhagavatam is the Supreme Lord Bhagwan Kapila, who gives another Sankhya philosophy. So, these atheistic Kapila has tried to define material nature, but without defining the Ishvara who is controlling the material nature. Whereas Krishna clearly says, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetu Nanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. So, that is a speciality, that there is a controller. Not just that there is one controller, there is one supreme controller, but each of these elements of Prakriti are alive because they have their Abhimani Devatas. So the whole goal of Radha Damodar Goswami's presentation is to convince that there are Devatas, there are demigods who are controlling each and every aspect of these things. So nothing is going on independently, nothing is going on whimsically, as it is understood today that the Big Bang has created the world, and since the Big Bang has created the world, we don't know why it happened, because there was no place for it to, there was no person to blast that Big Bang. There was no place where it will be blasted because nothing existed, and there was no element to blast. Just that there was some energy, there was infinite energy in no place. So that created the blast. So these are the speculative theories that the present day society has, and there is no reason for this creation. Similarly, there will be no reason for this destruction. It just exists. So the Vedic theory is much more advanced and much more sophisticated, but because it agrees that there is an intellectual brain behind all these things. It is common sense that even if you create a house, if you create a computer software, like I'm showing this Word document before you. Can I just say that the Word document came on its own? There will be no common sense if we say that. There will be some effort involved in this Word document. What to speak of the Vedānta Syamantaka commentary, which is written by Damian Martins? How much effort will be involved of his? Then what to speak of the original Vedānta Syamantaka written by Radha Damodar Goswami? How much effort will be involved in that? And all this is derived from Brahma Sutras. How much more effort by Vyasa will be involved in writing that? So it doesn't make any common sense. I mean, it doesn't make any case of a common sense to say that everything is coming by chance. So now the Shastras, what do the Shastras say about Prakriti? We will read that and then we will have some discussion. It is also heard from Smriti, Trigunam Tad Jagat Yonir Anadi Prabhavapyam, Vishnu Purana 1.2.21. Material nature is beginningless. It is neither created nor destroyed. It consists of three material modes and is the source of this universe. अचेतन परार्थ च नित्या सतत विक्रिया त्रिगुणम कर्मीणाम क्षेत्रम prakrite rupam uchyate. Parama Samhita 2.18. The characteristics of material nature are said to be as follows. It is insentient, meant for others, constantly changing, and it consists of three modes. It is the field of work for those engaged in material activities. So, if we are asked what are the characteristics of material nature, this shloka will give. So, knowing this shloka is important to answer this question. The characteristics of material nature. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 says, the material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Material nature is not independent. It is working under the supervision of Supreme Personality of Godhead, is again reinforced in 7.14. What is Prakriti Lakshana? So I did not try to zoom it a little bit. Fine. Satvadi gunatraya shrayo dravyam prakrtihi nitya chasa. So Satvadi gunatraya shrayoho dravyam prakrtihi. So Prakriti is a shelter of Satvadi guna, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. It is the Prakriti is sheltering these three, and Nitya Chasa, she is eternal. So these are the two Lakshanas of Prakriti. Okay, so that is one thing to be added here. So we discussed that Prakriti is Achetana, she is unconscious, and Parartha, meant for others, means Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho Yedam Jarite Jagat. It is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter. Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kammano Buddhi Revacha 7th chapter. Ahankaram iti yamme binna prakriti raschata. So these are the eight things that are there in Prakriti, and it's also mentioned that Jiva Bhuta Mahabhavo Yedam Jarite. So this living entity which is conscious is actually controlling Prakriti, and Prakriti in itself doesn't have the power to do anything. So unless the living entity comes into comes there, the Prakriti cannot function. If you lock the house and you keep it for days together, nothing will move. It will remain the same. Unless some rat comes in between, some insect comes in between, or some human being comes and cleans, then things will move. Till a Jivatma comes, nothing will move, things will remain in their place and on their own without any movement. So, even a body, human body, only when there is a soul, the human body functions, it walks, it talks, it moves around, it performs actions. All these things are happening because there is a soul. The moment Jiva is gone, then the body cannot do anything. So, body is actually dead all the time. When we say living and dead body, the difference between them. So scientists are not able to ascertain. They say the heart beats or the brain functions, so many things they say. But actually, human body is dead all the time. Just the existence of soul makes it active and makes it functional. So that is the speciality of the soul. So Prakriti is insentient, and it's only the Jivatma that is moving the Prakriti. So the 13th chapter also describes about Kshetra Kshetratnya Jnana. So Prakriti on its own cannot function. It has to have a knower of Prakriti. So field of activity. So the body is a field of activity, and the living entity knows the field of activity, knows about his body. But the surprising thing is, living entity knows only about his body. It doesn't know about the other's body. For example, if I feel pain, if I feel pleasure, if I feel sick, if I feel happy, I know about it. You will not be able to know. Similarly, your pains and pleasures, I will not be able to know. But there is one more living entity, Kshetrajnas api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So that superior living entity knows about the pains and pleasures of all the body. So just like kings in the past would allot certain lands to certain farmers, and those farmers would cultivate their land. They would know about their land very well, but they would not know about others' land, what crops to sow, when to sow, where there are stones, where to plow, when to plow. All that things they will know about their land, but they will not know about others' land. So similarly, but the king knows about all the lands. He has the records that this land is for this person, that land is for that person. He has the records of all. So similarly, the Supreme Lord knows about all the bodies, whereas the individual soul knows only about his bodies. So that is the understanding we can derive from this. Okay. Any questions till now before we move to the next section? Prakriti, I'm going little fast, but then and then there will be some summary because a lot of these things are quite easy to know. Any questions till now you can ask. Okay. So I felt Roshan Prabhu had raised his hand. Maybe he dropped. Okay, we will read the next section now. Among the three modes, Sattva-guna is the cause of illumination and so on. Rajoguna is the cause of passion, distress, and so forth. And Tamoguna is the cause of inattention, idleness, etc. Upon their homogeneity, destruction happens, just as death happens upon the homogeneity of phlegm, air, and bile situated within the body. Upon their unevenness through the manifestation of states as parts and wholes, the creation of material elements starting with Mahat Tattva takes place. During destruction, the transformation is uniform, while during creation, it is diversified. Hence, it is said Satata Vikriya, constantly changing. The first transformation of Prakriti is the Mahat Tattva, which is the cause of ascertainment in the individual soul. The Mahat Tattva is threefold, as stated in Vishnu Purana: Satviko Rajasaschaiva Tamasascha Trida Mahan. The Mahat Tattva is of three kinds, as pertaining to the modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance. When external energy is manifest, it's called Prakriti, and when unmanifest, it's called Pradhana. Yes, Prabhu, that is the thing. It will come up very soon. I'll be explaining that. So it will be manifest and unmanifest. There are two states of that. I'll be explaining that. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.26.23, Prabhupada mentions three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance are present in material energy, and their interaction is the basis of all creation. After the Supreme Personality of Godhead impregnates the material nature with his internal potency, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya. This takes place in the material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned soul. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.26.19. So, what is explained here is that just like when you see a lake, the water is still, you throw a stone there. When you throw a stone, the water gets agitated and waves are getting formed. And sometimes the waves, they collide with the surface and come back. And when the waves collide once again, the going waves and coming waves collide once again, the size of the waves become double. So all those things we can see. So similarly, when there is no agitation, then there is no creation. At the beginning of the universe or before the creation of the universe, there is no agitation. Everything is peaceful. Then when the first agitation happens, that is when the modes are created. And those modes, when they start mixing with each other, that is when everything in the universe is created. So this is the scientific way in which the Vedic literatures explain about the process of creation. So just like there is movement in the human body and there are reactions, there are actions, there are reactions, there are various things the human body does. All these things is an act of three modes. What is the shloka that tells about this? So, third chapter of Bhagavad Gita tells about this. Prakrti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimunatma kartamiti mate. Everything in the material mode nature is happening because of the interaction of three modes only. Whereas out of ego, we think that it's happening because of us. So, since just like in human body, everything, all the actions are going on because of kapha, vata and pitta. This water, air and fire. All these combinations are keeping the person alive, take actions, have health issues, have everything, have good health, everything. Now, when all these things are in equilibrium, then the person is not alive. So similarly, that is why you see the Ayurvedic way of treatment is to balance kapha, vata and pitta, but there is no absolute balance because some temperature in the body is required, at least 98.6 what we call in present day is required. You cannot have absolute balance of zero temperature. So some balance is required. So that will keep the person alive. So there will be definitely some more kapha or more pitta, more vata. There will be some difference. Only at one point of time we will be able to actually achieve success in balance of the three. That is at the time of death, after death. So similarly, in the material world, the goodness, passion, ignorance, there will always be, sometimes goodness will be more, sometimes passion will be more, sometimes ignorance will be more. So each of these modes will be up and down. It will not be all the time same or stable, because if all the time it is stable, then that is a time of destruction. That is a time of post pralaya, when everything is peaceful. So it's a dangerous situation that nothing will exist. So, so it is expected that sometimes some modes will be prominent. That is why the whole system is to balance the modes and come out of it. In Ishopanishad, it is very nicely explained in the by Prabhupada in the purports. He says that suppose a person has temperature of 101, 102, then what you do? You bring down the temperature. You give medicines to bring down the temperature. So, do you bring down the temperature to zero? What temperature we bring down to?
96, 98.
Yeah, what happens if we bring down to zero?
He will die.
Yeah. So, now, similarly, we are compare that with material disease. We are having a material disease to enjoy the material world. Now, that disease is maybe 100, 101, 102. Modern advancement of materialistic civilization is increasing the temperature to 107 by increasing the facilities for enjoyment, increasing the facilities for more getting happiness in the material world or relying on this material world. It is increasing the temperature more and more to 107. It is not actually solving. Whereas a program to completely reduce it by artificial renunciation will also not work. If we just detach from everything, saying that no, nothing more, then what happens is that detachment will not last long because we are not ready for it yet. So the Vedic program of Varnashrama provides a very balanced approach by which Sve Karmanya Birachada Samsiddhir Labate Nara. A person has to perform his prescribed duties, and within his modes he has to act. He has to, if he is a Grahastha, he should perform the duties of Grahastha. And in Grahastha life, there will be Grahastha responsibilities, there will be children, there will be family life, everything will be there. So all that is there. Similarly, Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, they have their own prescribed duties. Similarly, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, each of them have their own prescribed duties, and all this is in a controlled way, giving some sense enjoyment, giving some agitation of modes in a controlled way, with the idea that you cannot just suddenly bring your temperature to zero. Maintain normal temperature throughout your life, so that as you work more towards purification, then when you leave your body, you are actually ready for that liberation, where this material existence of modes is not required. So it's a very balanced program that the Vedic literature advocates. It's very beautifully described in the Ishopanishad. So what Prabhupada says, in the beginning, from clear consciousness or pure state of Krishna consciousness, the first contamination sprang up. This is called false ego or identification of the body as self. The living entity exists in the natural state of Krishna consciousness, but he has marginal independence, and this allows him to forget Krishna. Originally, pure Krishna consciousness exists, but because of misuse of marginal independence, there is a chance of forgetting Krishna. This is exhibited in actual life. There are many instances in which someone acting in Krishna consciousness suddenly changes. In the Upanishads, it is therefore stated that the path of spiritual realization is just like a sharp edge of a razor. The example is very appropriate. One shaves his cheeks with a sharp razor very nicely, but as soon as his attention is diverted from the activity, he immediately cuts his cheeks because he mishandles the razor. Not only must one come to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness, but one must also be very careful. Any inattentiveness or carelessness may cause fall down. The fall down is due to false ego. From the state of pure consciousness, the false ego is born because of misuse of independence. We cannot argue about why false ego arises from pure consciousness. Factually, there is always the chance that this will happen, and therefore one has to be very careful. False ego is the basic principle for all material activities which are executed in the modes of material nature. As soon as one deviates from pure Krishna consciousness, he increases his entanglement in material reaction. This entanglement of materialism is the material mind. And from this material mind, the senses and the material organs become manifest. So, the first thing that came into existence in the process of creation was ego, the element of ego. It is the most subtle among the elements. And from ego came intelligence, and from intelligence came the mind. And from the mind came the five gross elements. First thing that came is Akasha, then Vayu, then Agni, then Apa or Jala, and then Prithvi. So these things came in sequence, and the first thing came is Ahankara. Similarly, Ahankara is a symbol of material existence. So, our material existence is also because of Ahankara, because of false ego, because of false identification. We identify ourselves with the body, and that has caused our material existence. When this Ahankara element is destroyed, that time no more material existence. So, that is the point that Prabhupada is bringing up here. So, when the whole system was created, it was because of Ahankara. Similarly, our existence in the material world is also because of Ahankara. So, without Ahankara is not there. That's why after taking to the path of spirituality, one must be very careful about this Ahankara. Slight negligence in ego can cause our fall down. So, that is the point that Prabhupada is mentioning here. So, I will read this section also. It has a small thing. Then we can discuss. Yes, Roshan Prabhu, please tell me.
There, Prabhupada has written that we cannot argue why this ego comes. So I didn't understand that. It's- It is factual, Prabhupada says.
We cannot argue.
That why this false ego comes. Prabhupada has written here. We cannot argue about why false ego arises from pure consciousness. In the last line.
Aha. As soon as one deviates from Krishna or that one.
No,
No, we
first
cannot
thing.
argue. We cannot argue about why false ego arises from pure consciousness. Factually, there is always the chance that this will happen, and therefore we have to be very careful. So this refers to the anadi karma that we discussed before. So we cannot. There is soul is pure, right? Soul is pure. Then why it should come under the grip of false ego? We cannot understand that point. We cannot argue it because. The soul is somehow or the other since beginning, since infinite time, since time immemorial, covered by this false ego. And that false ego we have seen earlier has created different, what is that, inclinations of the jiva, either divine or demoniac. It has created the inclination, all because of this covering of false ego. So we cannot understand how it got covered or where that covering came from. All these things we cannot understand. That's the point he is making there.
Prabhupada talking about the creation, the first step. You are talking about anadi karma. And according to in the middle, the false ego can come whenever.
Somehow your voice is little unclear. Can you?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, is it audible now?
Better.
So here you are talking about that anadi karma. That due to anadi karma, we are very much influenced, and if we take up the Krishna consciousness in the middle, there is always a chance of false ego again coming with anadi karma. But here Prabhupada has written about the creation, isn't it?
Hmm.
So there is no anadi karma there. It is just the creation in the beginning.
No, creation is bhutva bhutva praliyate. Again and again it's happening. No.
So
So it is happening since time immemorial, something which we cannot trace. It is continuously happening. So we cannot actually find out when it happened. It is just continuously happening all the time.
so this
And
in the beginning refers to the that be, beginning of the breathing of Mahavishnu. You are saying.
yes, that is the point. So every time Mahavishnu breathes, and once he breathes back, I'll explain that point little more later. Once he breathes back, then there is no, everything is in the stomach of Mahavishnu. At that time, the concept of time doesn't exist. So only when he breathes them back, that is when the concept of time starts manifesting, space starts manifesting, and everything comes into existence. So that is when this thing. So the karmas that are there with the jivas, they all come into existence. The egos that are there with the jivas, they will all come into existence, and accordingly they are placed in different corners of the creation. Any other points to add to this? Anything else? Okay, this is a different topic now. Means how, from what, which gets transformed, and what is born in prakrti from what, all those things are gradually discussed. So that's a different topic. I will take all these things tomorrow. Okay. Anything else to add? Any questions you can ask? If there are any questions from the previous classes also, you can ask. We'll discuss a little bit.
Yoji, this false ego which we are talking about, does it also happen at a very advanced stage in our devotional service? So that could also lead to fall down at that stage?
As long as we are in the material world, the subtle covering of the soul is there. Mind, intelligence, and false ego is there. So as long as we are in the material world, there is always a risk that we will be trapped by false ego.
So, Prabhu, would it be a safer strategy to avoid, uh, as much as contact with, the fellow human beings or devotees, so that, the false ego never
Ego
comes
clash
in?
doesn't happen. Then you will be egoistic with yourself. If I am alone doing Nirjan Bhajan, like Bharat Maharaj, it happened. So he took a wrong decision of protecting the deer, thinking that out of ego that I am the only person in the forest who can protect the deer.
Yes, so but when we see with devotees, sometimes worse things could happen if we, indirectly offend them with our ego. Then Bharat Maharaj was at least saved in 3 births. But what can we say about someone doing
See,
Vaishnava?
there is no shortcut to tapasya, austerity. It requires, to stay with devotees requires austerity, and there is no shortcut way for that. We should definitely, because once we are liberated, we are going to stay with devotees. In Vrindavan, there will be all devotees only. So we have to get adjusted to those devotees. That's why there is uh, they make coins. They make coins in a place. What is that called? Mint. In a mint, they make coins, and that coins go out for circulation. So now in the mint only, if some chai wala comes and he sells chai, and these people give some money, if the chai wala doesn't accept, he says it is khota sikka. So then in the mint only it did not run. How will that khota sikka run outside? Getting the point? So,
Yes, sir.
so similarly, in this world only, if we don't demonstrate that relationship with devotees, why will we be permitted in the spiritual world, where we means how will we be successful in dealing with devotees? So that practice has to come here. Everything in the spiritual world, the practice of that should come here. Then we will be eligible to go there. We should have affection for the devotees of the spiritual world. For that we should have affection for devotees here. We should have affection for Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. That is why we should have affection for the deity of the Supreme Lord here. We should have affection for the food that is eaten in the spiritual world. That is why we should have affection for the traditional Vedic foods that are eaten in material world. So the Shukta Shaka Adi Bhaji Nalita Kushmanda Dali Dalna Dugdi Tumbi Tadi Mocha Kanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes. All these things we should have affection for these foods. Initially it's okay. Everything yena kena prakarane Manish Krishna Niveshet. You eat pizza, you eat burger, everything is okay. Everything can be offered to Krishna. Definitely later on also it's not wrong to eat these things, but gradually the affection for the foods that Krishna would eat with his friends should increase. The affection for the clothes that Krishna and his friends wore, or the mother of Krishna who would wear, the attachment towards those clothes should come. So we are trained to go to Vrindavan. For that, here also we should get trained. So all these things are a part of that.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I went little off topic, but I thought it was connected.
No, got it. So one more point was that okay, that is like we can have I've basically seen those similar situations also. Like suppose we are in a devotees kind of environment, like say in Mayapur or other place where we have a good devotee association, we are dealing with them, and they also understand the philosophy a little bit at least when it comes to Vaishnava Prada, and everyone else, like we all also understand it. Then we are a little bit careful. But in the material world, wherein we are dealing with the materialistic people and these things, and therein we come into a situation wherein we might not be able to control our ego or such things, and sometimes some situations that arise that might even disturb our sadhana and bhakti also. So in that case, we start questioning everything, that if we are doing proper bhakti or so, then how this ego and this, again, this gush of emotions are coming. So then, is it better to avoid that kind of situation and just, be in a close devotee association, or, we have to deal with the situation in like karma or something like that?
See, one of the things required for advancement in devotional service is to keep away from non-devotee association. But practically, to not talk with them, not deal with them is impossible in this world. Because in this world, one of the symptoms of devotional service is Sudurlabha. There will be very few candidates who will be into devotional service. That is also there. So you have to deal with the people. And when you deal with people, definitely the modes will interact. And when modes will take over, that time definitely will fall weak. Only when there is no creation are the modes balanced. So as long as creation is there, modes will be more and less. That will be there. So one thing is that you should mix with those people, live in that environment, and do those actions which are at least as close to Sattuguna as possible. Now, even in a temple, people sleep in the night. So there will be some Tamaguna even in the temple. Correct. But still, comparatively, temple is more sattvic than a bar or a pub or something like that. Similarly, it is necessary that an environment which is more sattvic, more conducive is required. That way, so the Vedic culture facilitated that environment. Traditional Vedic culture facilitated an environment where people were sattvic by nature. And because people were sattvic, even if there were some ego clashes, all those things, it was all controlled by the bracket of Vedic culture. You cannot go beyond the boundaries of Vedas. So I was telling you, 12th chapter deals with a pure devotional service. But after that, again, Krishna starts about you are dealing with the material world, Kshetrajna, you should know your body also. And what is your body? Three modes of nature, products of three modes, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamaguna. You should know how to balance these three modes. And for that, what is required? Purushottama Yoga, Vedas are required for that. So the path of the Vedas are going to tell you how to balance these three modes. And those who follow this path of Vedas to balance three modes, they are divine. Those who don't follow, they are demoniac. And those who are middle, those who don't have faith here, there, they are third type of people who are discussed in 17th chapter. So like this, Krishna very systematically plans these things and tells how to deal. He gives a guideline as to how to deal with this world. So we should really follow that systematic guideline of Krishna, and then only we will be able to come out of this. Otherwise, there is no shorter way for it.
Okay.
Yes.
I think, bro, it is altogether a different topic. It would require more deeper, step by step. We have to understand more things. But I
Yes, we have
understood
to be
that.
realistic. Sometimes what happens is that after coming to bhakti, we somehow feel that we are all going back to God immediately. But realistically speaking, we are tied up by different modes at different stages. We are stuck in this material world. So the journey is too far still.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Roshan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
I just had a request. Please hold the seminar of Jiva Fall Down as soon as possible, according to your convenience, because I am very much perplexed by that time only when you raised this question about the Anadi Karma. So I just have to say it.
Yeah, we will discuss that. Oh, sure. Any other questions in this regard?
So you're saying that each element of prakriti is alive.
Sorry, Prabhu?
You're saying that each element of prakriti is alive.
No, Prakriti is not alive. Prakriti is insentient. It doesn't have life. Just that Prakriti is controlled by Abhimani Devatas. The demigods are controlling Prakriti, and beyond the demigods, it is the Supreme Lord who is controlling. So they are the controlling elements who are making this active.
Mm. Mhm.
Anything else?
Hare Krishna,
Huh?
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
So you are saying that material nature itself is not conscious. The devatas, the jiva, the living entities who are in the post of devatas, they are controlling the material nature that way.
Yes.
So it seems like that material nature is conscious.
Yes. So they are making it act. Just like one object has to be kept from here to there. It is myself who control key, who lift it and keep it here. Similarly, now ocean is there. How can water from ocean come to my place, which is so many kilometers away from the ocean? But material nature has a system where Surya evaporates that water, then Indra forms the clouds and he pours that rain, and that way the facility is arranged to come to our place. Even if it doesn't come directly through the rivers, it comes. So some facilities arranged. All this is controlled by the Devatas behind.
So, but Prabhuji, one other hand, we say that material nature is also an energy of the Lord. So it also should have consciousness because energy of the Lord should also be conscious.
No, what? Not necessary that all energy of the Lord is conscious. Prakriti is unconscious energy of the Lord. It is Jada. It doesn't have Chetana in it. Chetana is only Jiva and Ishvara.
Uh, what about the Mahamaya, Durga, we say?
Mahamaya is again a Jiva, no? So she is also conscious.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, then. So we will close now. We will again meet tomorrow and continue with our discussion on Prakriti. पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
Yeah.